All right, welcome back everybody to Geordie's Basement. My name is Jordan, and today we're going to count down the top albums of 2023. This has been a phenomenal year of music, one of the best in recent memory. It really hits you at the end when you go to rank your albums and you realize how many you have and that it was difficult to rank them. Well, this is one of those years. I have 32 albums that made the cut this year, and that's not to say the dozens and dozens that did not make the cut. I'm not going to talk about the biggest disappointments or anything like that. This is strictly the best of the year. And I'm going to do a top 20 and then 12 honorable mentions. All right. So let's get right to it. I don't want to belabor and make this too long. All right. Honorable mentions. I want to start out with Trevor Rabin. Been gone for decades and super surprised and happy that the man shows up with his first proper solo rock album in, like I said, 30 plus years. And it's a great listen. At times you're listening to 90125 era, yes, and other times it's something that you never heard before. So it's a great blend of different genres. It covers everything. It's a fun listen. Rio is an honorable mention. Definitely highly recommended. Next up is The Struts. Pretty Vicious is the newest album. I'm a little disappointed, and I know I'm not talking about disappointing in the album. It's a good album, but I want The Struts to be heavier. I want them to be harder rocking. Turns out they're not going in that direction. This is more of a pop rock album, really leaning on pop. So I probably would have ranked it higher. Would have liked to have seen a little more balls behind it, to be honest. So Pretty Vicious by The Struts is an honorable mention. It's a good album. Sufjan Stevens is up next with his album Javelin. A lot of folks have this album in their top 10, and I can see why. This is a definite call back to the Carrie and Lowell album. It's a proper follow-up to that. If you're a fan of that album, you will know what kind of a sound it has. It's got that extremely emotive songwriting that only Sufjan can bring. It tugs at the heartstrings at times. It's emotional, lyrically heavy. Definitely a very good album if you're into very deep, good lyrics, singer-songwriter type stuff. This is a great album, Sufjan Stevens, Javelin. Also, Robbie Valentine, weirdly switching, going back and forth here amongst genres. Great Dutch artist, Robbie Valentine, a guy who's been really making the same album over and over again every couple of years since the early 90s. This one's no different, Embrace the Unknown. Very bombastic, very over the top, everything's extra with Robbie. Production, sound, tremendous piano work. It's, very melodic. It's this, if you know Robbie Valentine, it's the same album that you heard the last 10 times, but also very, very good. He's got just enough originality to keep it fresh. Recommended. Robbie Valentine, Embrace the Unknown. Next up is Pattern Seeking Animals. Spooky Action at a Distance is their fourth album in 4 years. This is, of course, Ted Leonard from Spock's Beard, Jimmy Keegan, Dave Meros. Great production, great melodic songs. It's prog, for sure, but accessible prog, and just easy to listen to. Nothing outstanding. It kind of stays in its box, but very, very good. Pattern Seeking Animals recommended. The Dreamer by Neil Morse. This one would have been higher ranked had I not been a doofus and waited so long to get it. I just thought it was another religious release by Neil, which aren't my favorite ones from him. I was wrong. It's got a religious overtone to it, but this album is a pure prog album in Neil Morse fashion. Great production, great melodies, tremendous cast of characters. I didn't want to start to get into who's on this album. A lot of very, very famous prog people. And I got it late in the year, so it kind of doesn't finish in the top 20. I haven't had enough time with it. I have pre-ordered Volume 2, which comes out next month, so hopefully I won't repeat. Obviously, I'm not repeating the same mistake there. But Neil Morse, Joseph the Dreamer, or The Dreamer Joseph Part 1 is an honorable mention for this year. Manchester Orchestra released an EP this year. I've become a big fan of them recently. Tremendous pop rock singer-songwriter, incredible vocals. They released an EP called The Valley of Vision. I think it's 6 or 7 songs. The EP, like I said, excellent. I recommend that. LP, Love Lines, another one who's made the same album 3, 4, 5 times now. But LP, very, very unique voice, very good pop sensibilities, good songwriting, and it engages you from front to back. It's not for everybody. If you're not into pop music, I'd probably stay away from it. It leans more towards pop, but it's unique because that voice is unique. So I highly recommend LP. Next up is Greta Van Fleet, an album that I hoped would be in the top 20 or top 10 even, because I thought they were headed in that direction. But I think this is a band now that's listening to their critics too much. They're trying too hard, at least by my opinion, to not sound like Led Zeppelin. And I say, let it go, man. Be yourselves. Sound like Zeppelin. I think that's when you were your greatest. I think the previous 2 albums were better. This one is good. Starcatcher, it's called, and I recommend it. It just didn't make the top 20, and I wish it would have been a little more in the vein of their first few releases. That's Greta Van Fleet. Another one that I haven't had much time with is the new album from Dirty Honey. I discovered them when they opened for Mammoth a couple of years back here in Philly. Very good, straightforward hard rock. The new album is called Can't Find the Brakes. It's good. If you like Tesla, for instance, I think you'll like these guys a lot. No frills, straight on, hard rock. Good stuff. DiVirgilio, Morrison, Jennings. The album Sophomore. This is, of course, Nick DiVirgilio, formerly of Spock's Spirit, now in Big Big Train. Ross Jennings of Haken. Neil Morse from everything else, pretty much. He of many bands. Their second album is called Sophomore. It's a step up from the first, for sure. These guys are like a modern day CSN. The harmonies are just amazing. You can tell that they're not together when they write the songs. It could be a little more cohesive, especially from song to song. But each one shines individually. Together, they're just a dream harmony section. So I would highly recommend this one. That's the second album from them, and it's called Sophomore. And then Alcatraz. Going from that to the Metal of Alcatraz. The new album is Take No Prisoners. It's their second album since Graham Bonnet left. Quite honestly, I wish it wasn't called Alcatraz because it's not Alcatraz to me unless Graham Bonnet is singing. But it's still very good hard rock by a veteran bunch of guys, and I recommend it. So Alcatraz, Take No Prisoners. All right, that's it for the honorable mention. Let's get to the top 20. Starting out at number 20 with Boy Genius. This is a collaborative album. You've all known it. It's appearing on many top 10s this year. Phoebe, Lucy, and Julian, all already established as solo artists, now together making their first full-length album. It's called The Record. It is very good. I wish it was great. It's not great. It's very good, but very angsty, very deep lyrically. The harmonies are tremendous. It's produced well. It sounds great. And, hey, it's number 20 on a list of many good albums. So definitely get Boy Genius The Record. Next up is an album by E Molecule, which is a new band. An album that I did not like when I first heard it. I say it's a new band, but it's Simon Collins. So if you remember Sound of Contact, they made one album about 10 years ago. It was my album of the year, or maybe second, or I don't know what it was. It was 2013. It's forever ago. But the Sound of Contact album was great. Simon Collins, of course, the son of Phil Collins, he returns here with one or two members from Sound of Contact. He's missing Dave Kersner, which kind of takes away that spacey kind of element that Dave brought to it. But this is really good. This grew on me. And the percussion is tremendous. I've always had a slight issue with Simon's vocals, but they're not bad by any stretch. They sound very much like Phil, as a matter of fact. But this is hard and heavy at times, but also gets gentle and sort of subdued at times. It knows when to go in each direction, which is a big part of the cohesiveness of a record. And I think it's quite good. So E Molecule, The Architect is number 19. And number 18 is a surprise. Just discovered these guys this year. This is Crownlands. The album is Fearless. And Shameless. If you're into Rush, you might laugh initially when you listen to this. These guys are Rush fanatics. They're derivatives of Rush. Two guys in the band making all this noise. But I love that it sound like Rush. I think it's fantastic. And I go back to Greta Van Fleet, what I said earlier, like, be who you are. Be like Zeppelin. Crownlands, be like Rush. This stuff's awesome. There's a tremendous epic that opens the album. You can see it's in parts right here. But the rest of the album is also amazing. The shorter songs, there's an instrumental piece or two. The vocals are tremendous. The gentleman's name is Cody, who's on vocals. The drums are great. Everything's great about it. It's a tremendous album. I can't wait to hear what comes next. This is, I believe, their second album already. I don't have the first, but I'll definitely be looking out for that. Crownlands, Fearless is number 18. All right, number 17. Number 17 is, we say this, this is the second consecutive time I'm saying this. Steven Wilson, is it a disappointment to come in at number 17? Probably, and I wouldn't say that about many artists. If it wasn't for the song Impossible Tightrope, this would not even be in the top 20. But it's the fourth track on the album, 10 minutes long. It's vintage Steven. And there's some other stuff on here that's also vintagey Steven Wilson. But again, the same problem with his last record, which didn't even chart for me. It's a step in the right direction, but it's still Steven trying to do stuff He's experimenting. I get it. Like, he talks a lot about it. He's out there. He gives 100 interviews, and I get it. He's trying to expand, and he doesn't want to do the same thing twice. For me, it's only partially a great Steven Wilson album. The rest of it's okay. Some of it I don't like at all, but I like more of it than I did the last album. So Steven Wilson, The Harmony Codex is number 17. I don't think I mentioned the name of the album, but you all know. It's The Harmony Codex. Next up is a band that's been with me since the 80s. This is their 7th album, aptly called 7. I'm talking about Winger. Winger 7. It's everything that you want a Winger album to be. They're the tightest hard rock band out there. Always have been. They're phenomenally tight. The rhythm section's amazing. Kip. This album is saved by Kip. The songs are always okay on a Winger. Usually you get, 3 or 4 really great songs and then some filler. Even the filler tracks on this album, Kip's voice has never sounded better. He is powerful on this album, at times spine-chilling. The hairs go up a little bit, and I usually don't have that experience listening to a Winger album. This, absolutely, if you want to hear Kip soar, this is his album, man. He's in his mid to late 60s or however old he is, still bringing it. Winger 7, I hope they don't stop. It's a tremendous album, and it finishes at number 16. All right, number 15 is the Australian band Voyager, their album Fearless in Love. This is a band that it's one of 2 albums on this list that could be an extreme progressive metal album or a top 10 pop rock record. Crazy what this thing. It spans both, sometimes in the same song. Sadly, the lead singer announced recently that he has cancer, and they had to cancel part of their tour. It sounds like he's going to be okay, but it's a scary time for them. But the album Fearless in Love is I think, 7th, 8th, 9th album for them. And they've all been very similar, very powerful, melodic, progressive metal albums with a pop sensibility, pop touch to it that makes it accessible. And quite honestly, if this was a different place and time, these songs may be in the top 10 on the Billboard charts, who knows. But Voyager, Fearless in Love is number 15. And number 14, it's a comeback of sorts, in my opinion. One of my favorite progressive metal bands, Haken, returns with their album Fauna. I wasn't a huge fan of the last couple of Haken records, Vector and Virus. I thought they were both good. They'd never been a bad album, in my opinion. But this is a step in the right direction. This thing is heavy. It's melodic. Ross Jennings, tremendous vocalist. The drums and the bass, the rhythm section is always tremendous with Haken. It sounds great. And what can I say? It's a step in the right direction. The artwork is tremendous, too, all throughout. I wish I could show you and had time to show you some of the pages, some of the artwork in the book. It's awesome. But Haken, great album, number 14. Sadly, I missed them on tour this time around. Hopefully they'll come back. That was number 14. Number 13 is one that came out of nowhere. My friend Jim Santora, who's author of the great books, The Underrated Rock Book and Underrated Rock Book 2. He gives me recommendations quite often. He called and said, listen to the new LA Guns. So that's what I did. I've never been an LA Guns fan. I am a fan of 80s hard rock, and I couldn't tell you anything LA Guns. I just was never a fan. Well, this one hit me. It's called Black Diamonds. It's raw. It's pretty much the most raw you can be. Some folks have said in reviews that it's underproduced, that it sounds too messy and noisy. I say that's the way it's supposed to sound. That was an intentional thing. It is raw and nasty and in your face and fantastic all the way through. It's a great hard rock record. Highly recommended. LA Guns, Black Diamonds. All right, number 12 is actually 2 albums that I combined as one. I have the physical copy of one of them. The other one has not yet arrived. I'm talking about Rival Sons. The albums are Dark Fighter, which you see here, and Lightbringer, which was the one that came out later in the year. I'm not too sure why they split this up into 2 albums. Each one's around 35 to 40 minutes. They could have made a double album out of it. Whatever, they made 2. It is what it is. This is the better of the 2, but combined they make number 12 for me. This band is a throwback. It's one of the great hard rock bands in existence today, modern day hard rock bands, still young guys. But man, this band is driven by the vocals. And Jay Buchanan, the guy behind the mic, is unbelievable. Maybe the best rock vocalist out there today. I can think about that a while, but it would definitely be top 1, 2, or 3 for me. Jay's amazing. The songs are great. They're melodic. This is not harsh by any means. The production's kind of low key. The mix is low. You may have to turn up the volume a little bit, which is uncommon these days with new albums. Usually the volume is crazy high. This one, not so much. It's more realistic, more like the way they used to make albums. And I recommend this. Is very melodic and excellent. Number 12 this year, Rival Sons with Dark Fighter and Light Bringer. Both of them awesome. All right, next up is number 11. And this is a band that is an offshoot from the Neil Morse band. That's Bill Hubauer, who's the keyboardist, multi-instrumentalist, singer, etc. And his band is called We Came From Space. This is their second album. It's called Overlords. Better than the first. A huge step up from the first. And I really like the first album. This album, though, you can see it's limited in the number of songs. Some of them are quite long. It's definitely a proggy. And some of the songs aren't sung by Bill. My personal favorite songs in this album are the ones that Bill sings. The ones that Bill does not sing, I usually skip, to be honest. I mean, they're okay. But Bill's got such a great voice. It's very Peter Gabriel-y, very classic 70s prog sounding, and very melodic. And some of these tracks, specifically a song called Silent Letters, which is my favorite, definitely give it a chance. And most people won't because it's prog, and God forbid people should listen to prog, but that's a great album. We Came From Space. All right, we're in the top 10. We're only at what, the 16-minute mark? All right, top 10. Number 10 is an album I sort of mentioned earlier when I said albums that go from extreme metal to pop. This one takes a long time to sink in. I'm talking about Sleep Token. This is their album. It's called Take Me Back to Eden. And I actually found out about this because Mike Portnoy recommended it halfway through the year. He said you had to listen to it, and I highly respect his opinion. This album is just off the charts. It's everywhere. It's the craziest, most eclectic album on my list today. I mean, what do you expect? These guys they're anonymous. I mean, they have masks on, but they have these strange names, and they're just it's an acquired taste. You can't just sit there and listen to it once and make an opinion. You have to listen to it more than once. The only complaint I have about it is that this is it. This is the album. It's got the track list in the back. There's no booklet. There's no photographs. There's no lyrics. You can find it all online. But the songs run. Speak, Jordan. The songs run from the tender, poppy sounding songs that, I mean, like Voyager could be top 10 in another day and age. And then they go to death metal growls, and which it's not that often, but they do get extreme on this album. And when it gets extreme, it definitely, you feel it in your bones, and that's what it's about. Emotion. Sleep Token, Take Me Back to Eden. That's number 10. All right, number 9. I've been with these guys since the 70s. That's the Pretenders. The new album is Relentless. It really is. The last album, Hate for Sale, a couple years back, I liked. This one blew me away. I could not believe I loved it. I didn't even order it yet. I have to get this one in physically and really get back into it. It's just, I know some people have been saying in reviews that it's got too many slow songs, too many ballads, too many. No, I think it's great. Yes, it has a lot of slow songs. The days of Precious, the days of Bad Boys Get Spanked, those days are gone. This is a newer Pretender. Still, two surviving members are there, Martin Chambers and Chrissy. And Chrissy sounds great in her 70s. And heartfelt songs, very melodic. An excellent album, very Pretenders, and very recommended. Relentless by the Pretenders. Keep going. Do not stop making new albums. All right, next up is one of my favorite pop artists of the day. I'm talking about Kate Davis. A couple of years ago, discovered her with her album Trophy, which was one of the best debut albums of all time, in my opinion. Then she followed it up with a covers album a couple of years back. But finally, she's back with her second full-length, all-original. It's called Fishbowl. And it's fitting that it comes after the Pretenders, because if you like the Pretenders, you probably will like Kate. This is pop music with an edge. It's guitar-y. It's jangly at times. Very melodic. Extremely cutthroat lyrically. I mean, it doesn't pull any punches, which I love. Some really, really cool songs on here. Some very tender songs. It runs the gamut. Very good pop album. Kate Davis Fishbowl is number, 9? 8? Where are we? Kate Davis is number 8. Okay, so moving on to number 7. I mentioned this album earlier, and that's the second album from Wolfgang Van Halen, Mammoth 2. A huge step up from the first album. And I like the first album. This one is better. It's more melodic, it's more accessible, and it's heavier all at the same time. A lot of great songs in this, and it just blows me away how talented this guy is, Wolfgang. Still only in his early 30s. He plays every instrument on this album. Of course, he has a band that does it live, and they're great. We've seen him several times just in the last year. But my gosh, this guy is, I mean, a lot of talent, and the vocals and the drumming especially is amazing. And he's getting a lot of kudos and a lot of good press for this album, and he should. Definitely give it a listen. Mammoth 2, it's called. Obviously their second album. And that album is number 7. So now we're at number 6, and this is a Philly guy who now lives over the pond. His name is Brian, but he goes by BC Camplite. I've had previous albums of his in my top lists. This is his most recent album called The Last Rotation of Earth. Man, this is the most emotional album on this list. It is deep and heavy. This guy definitely has some skeletons in his closet. He lets it out on these albums. But it's this very clever pop music. I'm not sure how else I can explain this. Obviously it's very deep and heavy lyrically, but it's got a quirkiness to it. And it sucks you in. It just does on the first listen, and it gets deeper from there. And the album reads like a movie. It's phenomenal. I highly recommend it. It's The Last Rotation of Earth by BC Camplite, and it is number 6. So now we're in the top 5. All right, top 5 finally, and number 5 is my biggest surprise of the year. Never heard of these guys. Well, partially because they never released an album before. The band is No Signal. You don't know them either, and that's okay. They're a prog band. I found them in the pages of Prog magazine this year, which I listened to a lot of the albums that Prog recommends, and as I'm reading the magazine, I try to ingest a little bit of what the band is about. This album is not available in physical format. It's only on streaming, which is crazy to me, but they're just starting out. This is a double album. There's a lot of music. If you like Porcupine Tree, I would definitely recommend it. I mean, I'm not comparing it to Steven Wilson by any means, but it sounds like that. It's got that sound to it where, you feel like you're in space, and you come back to Earth crashing with some heavy chords, and then it goes off into some other direction. It's an excellent album. It's called Distorted Reality. I should mention that. And the band is No Signal. These are kids. They're in their early 20s. I think they're from Ohio. I could be wrong. But yeah, I can't believe this album came in so high, but I can't stop listening to it. It's number 5 on the list. No Signal, Distorted Reality. Number 4. This is the only time on the list that I'm going to say this is their best album in 30 plus years, unless you can count Trevor Rabin, I guess, because it's his first album in 30 for some years. But the new Metallica album, 72 Seasons, is the best Metallica album since the Black Album. I said that when I did my Metallica video earlier this year with Rob, and I am sticking to it. Tremendous album. It gets a little bit samey. I mean, it's a little bit samey, but these songs are relevant. They're extremely ferocious. It's not speed metal. Those days are long gone for Metallica. But if you like sad but true type Metallica songs, you're going to love this. And Inamorata, the very last song, which is the longest song in Metallica's catalog, is the best song they've done since the Black Album. So highly recommend Metallica 72 Seasons. You probably have heard enough about that besides listening to me. Anyway, that's number 4. Number 3 is an album by a band I just discovered this year. It's the new Pornographers. You can see it there, the new Pornographers, as opposed to the old Pornographers. The new Pornographers were a band that I discovered through Vinyl Me Please midway through the year when I ordered. They had a special, if you re-sign up, you get 8 free albums. I picked this one because I like what some folks said about there being earworms on it. I'm a guy who likes earworms. This is an album that's got plenty of earworms. The new Pornographers continue as a guest. This is pop magic. Female and male lead vocals. I'm so excited I can't even speak right. But every song's got it's almost like a dream poppy, shoegazy at time, and then it gets a little bit heavier. It never gets too heavy. As a matter of fact, it's not a heavy album at all. Lyrically, yes, but not musically. These are great pop songs, and I can recommend. I'm looking for one to recommend. I can recommend them all. They're all very, very good. The artwork is gorgeous. Highly recommend. The new Pornographers continue as a guest is number 3. So we have 2 left. One I have physically here with me, one I do not. The one I do not is right here. That's the new Foo Fighters. I've been a Foo Fighters fan since 1995 when they first came out. But for me, they kind of lost me in 08 or 09, the Echoes album. After that, I kind of lost the Foo Fighters. This thing I had special interest in because of what's happened with Taylor passing away and everything. I've kind of been paying more attention to them. So I listened to this album carefully when it came out, and I fell in love. It's an emotional album. I mean, you can imagine, I'm sure you've seen the reviews already. This is a lot about Taylor. Some of the songs directly talking about him, and it runs like every Foo album. It gets very, very heavy, and then it gets very tender. And I love the way this album flows. The album track listing is perfect. Listen to it as a whole. It's not overbearing. It's not too long. The playing is fantastic. The mix, and Dave's the master songwriter. He really is. He deserves the praise that he gets. This album would have been number one in other years, but hey, number two is not too shabby in a year of great releases. So that's at number 2, Foo Fighters, But Here We Are. I keep forgetting to mention the name of these albums. Anyway, that leads us to number 1. Without further ado, this is the comeback of the year, album of the year, and that's the new album by Extreme. There could be no other. These guys have not made a great album since 1993, in my opinion, with 3 Sides to Every Story, which is one of my top 5 albums ever. This is not that good, but this is damn good. And it harkens back to that album quite a bit. The last album I did, which was in 2008, was, so-so. Matter of fact, it was not all that memorable at all. So I wasn't expecting much. Then I heard the guitar solo in Rise, Nuno. Where are you? There you are. What can I say? I mean, the guitar solo, one of the best guitar solos I've ever heard. The rest of this album is unbelievable. It listens like a great movie. Listen to it from front to back. Every song is different. My personal favorite songs in this album are the ones that don't rock as hard, ironically, even though Rise was the first song I heard, the debut, the very first track on the record. It's gotten a lot of praise. It should. This band deserves to be number 1, not only with me, but on the charts. I mean, I look at the charts now and it's disgrace. There's no rock music. This is amazing. The cover is so cool too. This guy is awesome. Anyway, that's the number 1 album of the year. Extreme. The album is called 6. It's their 6th album. So yeah, that's all I've got to say about it. I can go on and on about this album. I still listen to it on the regular. And I highly recommend it. So Extreme 6 is the number 1 album of 2023. That's my list. I'm sticking to it. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for watching this year. Hope to have more content for you in 2024. Whether it's going to be able to beat this year or not, I highly doubt it, but that would be awesome if it did. A happy new year. Happy holidays to everybody out there. Thanks again for watching. Get the new Extreme album. Comment below any of your lists, any recommendations you'd like me to listen to. I would love to hear from you. Thanks again all. Have a great one. See you soon. Bye.